What's the biggest issue that you have when you're trying to transition to maybe a new career field? Let's say you've already taken a boot camp, for instance, or you're taking a course, and you feel that you're ready, you have the knowledge, but now you go to apply for jobs, and maybe you're not getting any responses, any callbacks, or maybe you're getting some interviews here and there, but nothing serious yet, right? What is the biggest issue that you're facing when you're trying to transition into that next position? Trying to advance your career. Maybe you took something different earlier on, and now you want to go into a new position, a new career field, and it's you're having trouble with it. What is the biggest issue that you face? If you said lack of experience in the field, I would have to agree with you. Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. In this episode, we are going to talk about experience. And what do I mean by experience, right? To me, experience happens in all forms, shapes, and sizes, right? So you might be so going with you took the necessary actions, right? That whether it's to go through a boot camp for whatever subject that you're transitioning to, or whatever career that you're transitioning to. Maybe it's UI design, maybe it's QA, maybe it's a software engineering boot camp, whatever the case may be, right? Or you created your own boot camp by taking a series of courses on maybe Coursera, Udemy, whatever the case may be. Like, however you got the education now, right? So now you created your resume, or maybe if you went through a boot camp, they created the resume for you, whatever, right? It doesn't really matter at this point. But you're applying for jobs, and the problem is nobody is responding to you, right? Let's say you've put in countless applications, like you're tired, whatever, right? And no one's responding to you. So, what seems to be the problem, right? I'm sure you already know it's I don't have enough experience. The people who end up contacting you, they say, "Oh, you don't have enough experience." Whatever. Every single interaction is you don't have enough experience. So now you ask the it's a pretty good question to ask. How am I supposed to get experience if no one is willing to hire somebody without experience? Fair. Here's a Other than the fact that there's different strategies that I employ that you could actually um, gain experience. There's different ways to do it, but the here's what I really want to talk about. Right, a lot of times we take it as, oh, someone is. I'm gonna put it like this, right? I'm gonna say it like this. A lot of times we have a higher price on our time than it's actually worth. So it sounds a bit rude. It's actually not. It's honest, right? We have a higher sense of worth on our time. We think that, oh, this is wasting my time. Oh, this isn't worth it. I'm spending all this time. I'm wasting time, wasting time, wasting time, wasting time. My question is, if you weren't doing that, what else would you be doing? Right? What else would you be doing with your time if you weren't doing the things that were actively trying to advance your life and your career? Now, we may be doing it in a wrong strategic way, but is you applying for these positions? Is you updating your resume? Is you interviewing? Is you doing maybe they give you a project, right, to work on it. Maybe it takes you a few hours to work on it, right? And then maybe they ghost you. Maybe they reject you after that. Whatever the case may be, right? But now you feel some type of way because you feel that they wasted your time. So my question is, what would you be doing in that additional amount of time? So if you didn't work through that project, right? Maybe they gave you a technical project. They said, "Hey, here's let's say it like this, right? Let's put it like this. So let's say that they contact you, right? So no one has been contacting you. It's so tough, and now you finally get someone from a company that you applied for out of the thousands of companies you applied for, right? They actually contact you and they say, "Hey, I checked out your resume. We want to give you this technical project. But guess what? It's a Friday." They contact you on a Friday and they say, "Hey, do you think you can have this ready for us by Monday afternoon?" So that means that you would have to work on it over the weekend. Hmm, what do you do? So let's say you say, "All right, this is the first company that actually reached out to me, right? Out of the thousands that I applied for, this is the first one that actually applied that responded to me." So you go and you're gonna do it, right? So you do the technical project and you think, "Oh, this is great," and you make it very nice, and then you submit it. Monday morning comes, you submit it, right? And then you don't hear anything for 2 days, and on the third day, they say, "Oh, unfortunately, we're not going to move forward with your application." Now, do you feel some type of way about that? I'm sure you do. Like, oh, I just spent my whole entire weekend working on this project, and they rejected me, and like, why would they have me waste my time? That's the topic, right? Why would they have me waste my time? Or the response is maybe the response is, "Oh, we decided to move forward with another candidate." All right, like if they already had someone they're going to hire, why would they have me work on this project over the weekend? So, wow, that's somewhat fair, but here is the problem, right? So, number one, that there's that heightened sense of the value of your time, right? Which I've discussed every now and then based on a formula of valuing your time that I've heard, and then I created a little app for, right, a little calculator app, right. But outside of that, right, I think that we miss the biggest lessons when we prioritize our time over the life lessons and the experience that we can gain from the things that we have to do, right. Nothing is ever guaranteed. Like, I'll give you an example. I've seen this happen before. Actually, I'll give you a personal example, right? At a previous company that I was at, so I applied everything, go through the whole process, get the offer and everything, right? And when and I was told, okay, this is going to be who your manager is, and this is what the team you're going to be working on. Cool. Now, when I actually start, is they made the decision on their own to say, "Oh, actually, this is going to be your manager instead, and this is the team that you're going to be on, whatever," right? Um, At the end of the day, it didn't really matter to me. But if that was one of the deciding factors for me when accepting the position, we could have had a problem, right? It could have been a problem. I mean, for me, like I'm flexible. It worked out fine, right? But the point is, companies change as they learn new information. They change, and a decision has to be made. I've seen it before where they made an offer, right, and then they rescind the offer. So now imagine you're in this situation, right? Let's say you do have a current job and you get an offer, you put in your 2 weeks or however long you put your notice in, right? And now 3 days before it's your last day at your current place, they rescind the offer. Now, do you tell your current place, "Oh, I'm not leaving anymore," right? Things happen, and I've seen this on the other side as well, right? A company makes an offer, the person accepts the offer, right? And then a few days before their start date, they say that, oh, they went ahead and they can't take the position anymore, right? So the time and money that the company invests in the hiring process for that particular person, and all the other people who are being interviewed as well, right? They it's lost, and they have to go either start over or look for their second choice, whatever the case, right? So things happen, but what the part that I'm talking about, especially for you, is you should value the experience, especially if you don't have experience in the first place, right? Because if you don't have experience transitioning, like in the field that you're going to, you also don't have experience interviewing, like having a good resume for that position. You don't have the experience of interviewing for that position. You don't have the experience of answering questions. You don't have the experience of asking questions, right? Which, to me, the questions that you ask in an interview might be one of the most important parts of the interview. Right? I never thought about this before, but just recently I'm like, man, the questions that you ask in an interview might be the make or break that you whether you get the position or not. So what questions did you ask? See that part. See that I'm going to address that. What questions did you ask in an interview in the Patreon? Right? That's going to be a video that I'm going to be creating and releasing in the Patreon about what questions should you ask in an interview. Right? But back to the topic. Right? The experience that you get, you need that experience because we'll break it down step by step. Right? Let's say so now you're done with you have the education, right? And you're applying. You're not getting any responses, and you should time box, right? The self autopsy. What is the self autopsy, right? So you look at what you've been doing, right? You look at what you've been doing, and you time box it. And if you're not getting any results for X amount of time, we can determine that amount of time, But if you're not getting the results or any traction on that step for X amount of time, now we have to assess and analyze. You wouldn't believe the amount of resumes that I get sent to review for different people. I say, hey, send me your resume, and I can give you some feedback. It got to a point that I just ended up copying and pasting the initial general feedback. Like, don't send it to me. Don't send me the resume yet. Here's the general feedback. Make these updates first, and then send me the resume, right? Because they're all pretty much the same. But the amount of resumes that I would receive that were totally bad, right? But to the fact to the point of before I even heard of the concept of the self autopsy, I was saying like, would you want to talk to yourself if you received your interview, like if you received your resume, right? Barely any information in it, and you know the people who either created the resume for you or gave you that resume advice, they're partially to blame, but it has your name on it, so it's at the end of the day, it's 100% your fault that your resume is the way that it is, right? It's not somebody else's name on it. They might have made it for you, but you took it and you applied for it. You applied with it. You applied with that terrible resume, so it's all on you, right? The results that you get are always 100% on you. But so now the self autopsy part comes in where I'm like, right, well, I got your resume and I can see that it's terrible. W- How come after this many amount of jobs that you applied for, right? That you didn't go ask for that feedback. Did you ask the feedback from the person who created for you or who gave you the advice? That's not the way to get advice, right? It's not the way. So at step one, if you're not getting any traction from your resume, then you need to so now you get the experience of using your terrible resume to apply and not getting any response, and now say, okay, how can I fix this? Break it down step by step. How can I fix this? This isn't working. What do I need to do? Right? So now let's say that you take the necessary steps, right? Let's say you have a conversation with me and say, all right, this is what the problem with your resume is. This is what you need to do. This is how you can gain some experience in order to have that whatever field you're transitioning to at the top of your resume. Because at the end of the day, you're looking at the experience. It's so hard to to in today's time, right? It's so hard to hire people who don't have any type of experience in the field, right? And I'll tell you this: putting you take a boot camp, and it's like some internal boot camp where they give you some internal internship. Where it's like 2 weeks, a month of experience. It it doesn't mean much, right? Um, it doesn't mean much. Like we want to see something that you actually did, right? So and there's strategies to do that. Contact me if you want to learn more, right? But the the thing is, your resume is bad, right? So that's the first step. You analyze it. I've seen people spend hours, right? They're not getting paid for this. They spend hours breaking down a basketball game or a football game, right? They're just hanging around. You're like, "Hey, what you doing?" "Nothing. Just hanging around." Right? And they spent countless hours talking about breaking down 3 or 4 games, right? But at the same time, they want a career shift, maybe into tech, whatever, right? We talk about tech here, so let's go with tech. They want a career shift, but they don't like the same way they analyze the sports, they don't analyze themselves. They don't analyze their their process. They don't analyze what they've learned. They don't analyze how to express themselves, right? So now we get to the point of you don't like all you do is you take that resume that they gave to you or that you created and you just apply for all the jobs in the world with it, right? And you don't hear anything back and you don't do that self autopsy. You don't do that self analysis. Say, okay, what is the problem with this? Because I'll tell you this, the places that you apply for, the recruiters that you interact with, right? They're not going to give you that feedback. Maybe if it's one of those contracting companies, they tend to give a little more feedback because they have something directly to gain from you getting employment. But they're also working with other people as well. And if somebody else is like, if they have to do less work with the other person to get them to make them money, then they're gonna go with that other person. Same way, right? So you need to go through it step by step and fix it, right? So no, you're not getting any responses. Something is wrong with your resume. One of the people that I work with closely, right? Applying, they were applying before we came into contact, applying, absolutely nothing, right? Reached out, they said, hey, like, can you help me? Can you work with me? I'm like, oh, of course, yeah, let's do it, right? And then we made the necessary adjustments, what you need to learn, what you need to work on, and then different opportunities started coming in, right? But this is what they said to themselves. All right, I don't know what's wrong myself, right? But I know that something is wrong. Let me contact an expert to see if they can help me. So, like, that was the initial formula, right? So we get into contact, and first things first, resume is bad, right? All right, you got to fix your resume. Here are some strategies to fix your resume, right? And a big part of my initial now, what I use as my initial resume feedback, right? It's like a little template at this point because everybody has the same bad resume, especially in tech, right? So I'm like, that became a part of the template that I sent. Like, all right, here's these general updates to make, which um I'm gonna definitely post those general updates for your resume in the Patreon, right? So if you want to get that general feedback, join the Patreon, and you have access to a whole lot of other things, but that'll definitely be in there to help enhance and spice up your resume, right? But now we get to the point of we're getting contacted for potential positions, right? And there's different depending on the company that you're applying for, right? They might have different requirements in order to move on to the next step. Okay. Let's say you have to take an assessment, a test, whatever the case may be. And let's say you do it and you don't hear back, or they do you do hear back and they say that you didn't make it to the next round, right? Do you get mad about it? Does that bother you? Does that upset you? And I think how you deal with the rejection and the quote unquote failure, right, determines what happens next. Do you have the attitude, oh, they wasted my time? Or this was good for the process, right? Because not only did I went from not getting any feedback, any traction, now I made it to the next step so I can continue the autopsy. I can continue the analysis. I can continue the assessment. So, hmm, what happened here? Did I do something wrong here? Because somebody, depending on the type of assessment it is, right? Somebody is reviewing the results, and could I have done better? Did I write down the questions that I had while I was doing this assessment? If it's a test, right? Did I write down the questions? And then after you're done with the test, go online and check to make sure you got the right answers. Or if you're doing a technical project, right? And you get rejected, could I have done something better in this project? You analyze it. Maybe you send it to somebody else and say, "Hey, do you see anything wrong with like give me can I get a code review?" Or if you have a project to do, let's say it's over the weekend, right? Before you submit it, you ask your favorite tech coach, "Hey, can you do a code review on this? Make sure this makes sense. This looks good." I'll tell you this, when I was doing my technical project, right? And I worked through it, got everything done, and a couple of close friends of mine in the tech industry, I said, "Hey, I'm applying for this position here. Can you take a look at this at this repo I just pushed up? Take a look at the README file. Take a look at the code. All of that. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it has all the information. Like if I was sending it to you, right, and you were to take a look at it, would that be complete enough for you to do whatever you need to do with it?" Got the thumbs up from, just like a code review, right? Just like a code review, just like I asked for approval and I got a thumbs up and I'm like, all right, cool. Now I'm gonna submit it. Like out of the people that I sent it to, I got different feedback from different people. And I didn't only send it to like one type of person, right? So I would send it to someone who is um, more technical and like looking at the code. I send it to someone who is more um, managerial, right? Who can give me a different type of feedback. So I was like, "Oh, you got to fix this grammar issue." Oh, perfect. Thank you for that grammar. Oh, look at this code. This part it doesn't make. Can you adjust it? Boom, boom, done. Right. But ask for feedback. And now, so now, right? Let's say you get past that part. So cool. Our assessment, our technical project, whatever the case may be, it's accepted. Now we're at the next step, right? So let's say the next step is either you're reviewing the technical project or it's a panel interview, whatever the case, right? And let's say at that point, they ask you questions, you answer, you go through the whole process, and now they say, "Nope, sorry, we don't want you." Now what happens? So now you went through the. So here's where we are, right? You adjusted your resume, spoke to the recruiter, did an assessment. Now you went either through the technical interview or the panel interview. Sometimes it's just go straight to that, or it depends, right, on the company's process. But so you go through all of that, and now they reject you, right? So now let's say you're 8 to 10 hours invested into this, right? And now they reject you, and like, oh wow, like they took me this far, they wasted my time. We're back to the wasting time part, right? The higher sense of value on your time. But my question is, what would you have been doing anyways? We you didn't appreciate the experience that you got because without going through that whole process, you wouldn't be able to do that self autopsy. You wouldn't be able to do that self analysis to see, okay, what problems am I having and how can I fix it? Because let's say you fix a problem with the resume, right? Now you're going to be getting a lot more contacts, a lot more recruiters or, HR departments, whoever it is, a lot more of them are now contacting you, right? So we fixed the first problem because you were never getting contacted before. We fixed the first problem. Now you're going through the technical projects and you were getting like before you weren't even getting there, right? But now that you're there, you're getting rejected. So you're like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Do I need to study better? How do I adjust? And now you're getting past that, right? That's the experience. That's the experience, right? So now you finally get past the technical project part after, I don't know, let's say a good amount of technical projects, right? And you spent time on it. It takes time. It takes brain power. It takes time, all that good stuff. So now you get past that step to the now you're actually talking to hiring managers, the people that you be working with, and now you get rejected again, right? So you're invested in it, you get rejected. How you react and respond, and you're gonna be responding to yourself, or God forbid, you go and post it on LinkedIn about why do these companies do this? They take you through this whole process. They're wasting time. Da, 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 da." I see so many of those posts on LinkedIn, and I'm like, "Oh, geez, you just don't get it. You just don't get it." What I suggest is, all right, how can I learn from this? What did I do wrong? Are you taking notes when you're being interviewed, right? What questions did they ask me? How did I answer them? How did I answer the questions, right? Did I say something like dumb? Could I have answered it better? Did I say too much? Did I did I actually answer the question that they were asking me, or did I go off on a tangent? Was I confident in my responses? If I didn't know something, did I go off and ramble about it? Different, like that's part of the analysis, and that's why I don't believe throughout the process that we actually waste our time. I'm looking for the positive, the benefit that I can get from any experience, especially if that experience is on the path to where I want to be. So now I analyze, I do an autopsy on my failure. And I say, okay, this is where I believe I messed up at. And then maybe you contact your favorite tech coach and you say, hey, I had this interview. These are the questions that they asked me. These are the answers that I gave. This was my body language. You're doing all that analysis, right? And now I give you feedback. I'm like, okay, this part probably went wrong. This part probably went wrong. This part, it's not that serious, right? Quick story. Somebody like one of the first resume that I reviewed, right? And then we jumped on a call and answered some questions. And then he had an interview. And after the interview, I'm like, "Oh, how did it go?" And he's like, "Oh, not too good. I messed up on a few questions." I'm like, What question did you mess up on?" And he tells me the question. I'm like, "Oh, you don't got like you're gonna get the offer." Like, that question that they were like, they don't really care about that answer. They were just trying to see how far, like, you know, what that if it even matters, if that question even matters. The only thing it's gonna affect is like your experience level, where maybe you could have got this much a little bit more money, but but that question totally doesn't matter, right? Because I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've asked that question or questions like that, and I didn't really care about it. It was just like, just seeing how much extra that this person knows, where at what level they're at. But for me to get to that question, I'm already a thumbs up on you, right? If I don't have more somewhat challenging questions, that's because I already see where this is going and do everybody a favor, right? So it's that part of that analysis, but you don't get it if you don't get that, like, you're not able to do it if you don't gain that experience of the process. Experience in every single part of it matters. You need to show some type of experience in the work that you're applying for, right? But you also need to gain experience in the actual process from applying. When should I apply for a position? Right? Applying is an art. Your resume is an art. How you speak to the recruiter is an art. How you present your project is an art. How you interview is an art. You're selling yourself. And then once they get to that question, do you have any questions for us? The questions that you ask are also very important. So you have to take that experience seriously. And with the mentality of they wasted my time, you've already lost on the most valuable part of actually landing yourself that next position. We need to change our mindset. We have to change our mindset. I need to gain the experience in all aspects of the process. It's not just about having the experience in the actual job duties, the actual job function. It's I need to get the experience of how to actually land the job, because without the job, all the skills that I learned don't mean much. All right? So, think about it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think that we need to reassess the way that we spend our time, the way that we assess what is actually wasting our time versus what is actually benefiting us. And once we do that, we're going to start to see growth and success in the things that we desire. All right? So, on that note, this has been another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. If you found this information valuable, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every single time that we go live or release a new video. Like the video, share the video. Share the video with somebody. I mean, maybe it's you, but you might know somebody as well who has been applying and they're not getting any results. And hopefully, this video can help them to start doing their self-autopsy to fix the issues, right? It's a formula. I described it as an art, but it's also a science. There's a formula to it. There's an algorithm. Figure it out, all right? And more information about this, like the questions to ask in an interview, will be posted in the Patreon, along with tons and tons of other content. So check it out. Check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. See if it adds value to your life, right? And then we can go from there. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.
Enigmatic Joker.